Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Spencer TCG here with another deck gameplay video for you. Today we are featuring the Chancellor Palpatine Dark Sidious deck that I posted on my channel last weekend, and we finally got some gameplay for you guys, so I know you were all excited to see this. Let's just, get right into the video. If you guys haven't seen the deck profile, I recommend checking that one out, but it is an aggro Palpatine list. Which is, pretty different than a lot of people. I think a lot of people are playing this deck control. We're playing aggro. We're playing Tarkentown. The idea in our opener is to get 2 1-drops. If you guys have been playing this deck because you watched the video, resourcing is one of the hardest parts about it. So whenever I'm taking my time, it's usually how to resource. You're trying to keep at least one bad guy card in your hand because you're going to have to flip to it, and you need to flip back. The deck plays 15 dark side cards, but 3 of them cost 6, so really we have 12 targets. So it is risky to even keep a hand with 0 dark side cards, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Because you're also looking for 2 1-drops. We have a bunch of ways to play 2 dudes on turn 1, and that is what we're going for. So we're playing against Asajj Ventress. I don't have much experience into the leader. They have the collective camp. He opens up droid deployment, which summons 2 1/1s to his field. It's a pretty scary start because he could be able, exploit those tokens out and have an early Ventress. And that's exactly what he does. So that's a pretty good opener for him. Gets a pretty big unit onto the field. But we opened our 2 1-drops, so we're pretty happy. We're also running Tarkentown, so we're not, the most worried about this. We take the initiative, and we're going to go to the next turn. I really like Soldier of the 500 first. It's one of the new cards from the new set. It's a 1/3 with Raid 1. So, swings for 2, has 3 defense. Very strong. I think also really good in Han 2 as well. So, you might be seeing it there. So this deck actually doesn't really get the initiative too often, but our opponent also played 2 cards. And as you guys see, I am thinking about the resource. Again, very difficult to resource with this deck. Mostly because I'm deciding if I'm able to lose a unit, because you really want to lose a unit on this turn of the game. You could do crazy stuff like Tarkentowning your own unit. I think I have a heroic sacrifice in hand, which is the ideal when our opponent is like, I'm not killing your unit, and then you just punish them because you have the heroic sacrifice anyway, which is one of the reasons why this deck I think really functions well as red. You get to play heroic sacrifice and ruthless raider, because I was thinking about playing green for a while with ECL, but we're trying out the Tarkentown and it's feeling pretty good. But yeah, so I take 10 minutes to resource. We're still newish to the deck. We have at least 20 games I'd say on it, but probably more, maybe like 30. But yeah, it is like I said, it's tough to resource with the deck. So I trade into his Ventress. I'm a little nervous about Ventress in general because he could be playing like Fallen Lightsaber or something. So I think attacking into it immediately puts the pressure on because I have Tarkentown, so I could just immediately kill it. He has a Force Throw, which is pretty good. This is another hard decision because I'm like, I could get rid of my 3-drop for the turn. That way I ensure one of my guys dies. Or I was like, well, if I get rid of my 1-drop, then I could, and if he doesn't target my guy with 1 HP left, then I could just put it on the other soldier and then trade into Ventress, and then I lose a guy. So Force Throw, while it is kind of a crazy turn to play, I was actually kind of okay with it. I think I thought a little bit about this too much. I should have just always gotten rid of the heroic sacrifice here for my hand right away. I'm pretty sure I have that. So we'll wait for me to make the right decision. Yeah, so I get rid of the heroic sacrifice. He puts the damage on my healthy guy, which is totally fine with me. He's like, I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? He could kill my guy, but now I have to attack and trade into his Ventress. Which, again, I feel like most decks, I feel like if they summoned a 2/4 and went Force Throw, they would just lose the game. So luckily our deck played, really healthy guys that swing for 2. He summons a Greedo out. We play Fighters for Freedom. He grabs the initiative, and we get to flip with Palpatine, which is super nice here. We draw a card. We have nothing to heal, but now we're on our dark side turn for next turn, which is the idea. A lot of our dark side cards either cost 1 or 4. So and this is why we're playing a lot of 1-drops in the bad guys, because now I could play you know, a 1-drop bad guy, flip them, and then play, you know, whatever I want in my good guy pool. Could play a 2 and a 1-drop, or maybe another Fighters for Freedom. Whenever you stack Fighters for Freedom, your games become pretty crazy. I think this video is actually another good one to watch because, you know, we're playing against a quote-unquote aggro deck because he gets to flip on this turn. So he goes for the Greedo. I get super lucky that he misses. Otherwise, my Fighters for Freedom would be dead here. You know, he went for, I guess, a little bit of a risky play, but he plays a lot of events, he says. So, you know, 50% of the time we're just losing my guy. This is a tough choice. I remember that his leader deploys now, so like keeping open my Fighters for Freedom like makes it a little bit scary for Ventress to just come on out. But I think I have another heroic sacrifice in hand, but I could always just play that on my soldier too. These turns are pretty hard to navigate. Obviously, there you can see I have it might be a little off the screen. I have a 4-drop in my hand, so we can go ahead and swing for 2 first. See what happens. He plays On the Doorstep, which is actually like a very good card into my board right now, right? I have 2 guys with 1 HP left, so he's going to be able to knock those out. And because of that, I'm probably just going to be swinging for 3 with the Fighters, trying to get damage on the base. We're a little bit lucky that he's playing 25 HP, so only 20 more to go. He summons his Ventress, which of course has the first strike ability because he's played an event this turn. Spooky scary. Yeah, I mean, the On the Doorstep really countered me. I wasn't able to keep my Fighters for Freedom open, so like good on him for reading that. So the Infiltrating Demolisher, while it is, I think, one of our strongest cards we can play because it has 5 health, is actually not that great into here. He actually has like a perfect way to clear my board. The droids will kill my 1-drop and 3-drop, and then 1 can trade into my 4-drop, and then Asajj will finish off the job because he's played an event this turn, and it has first strike. So it's kind of sad, but it's okay because, you know, we're also clearing his board, and we will end up with a 2/2 on our field from our leader. So I think this turn lined up really well for him, but as you can see, this deck is pretty resilient. It has so many bodies on the field. You feel like you have so many cards. We go ahead and use our Darth Sidious effect. So we flip back over, summon our 2/2. We deal 2 damage to the base, which looks like I may have forgotten to write down. I don't know if we remember or not, but yeah, he should have taken 2 more. Ooh, super sad that if we just forget to write down 2 damage. Yeah, that is super sad, Spencer. Come on, you can't be doing this, my man. You can't be doing this. So, oh well, our opponent just healed too, so we'll see how the game goes with our doing 2 less damage to the base. All right, so we're back on the good guys. We play Heroic Sacrifice, another great example of how good the card is. We make a lot of tokens throughout the game. So we just Heroic Sacrifice, we draw the card, we kill his leader. He plays Political Pressure, which I thought it just made you discard, but it's discard at random. So we let him do it. He hits our Sabine from our hand, which is totally fine. We play out a Jyn Erso. Looks like I forgot to pay 1 for Heroic Sacrifice, so there's just a bunch of nonsense going on. We didn't flip with Palpatine. We didn't do the 2 damage, and we didn't pay 1 for Heroic Sacrifice. Tragic. Which is totally fine. I mean, we had the extra resources. I was just trying to be like, cute to see if I can get a dark side card instead, but there was actually like no reason for me to flip first. I should just always play the soldier. So we did have an extra resource this turn. So if I did pay the 1, I just would have summoned the soldier that was in my hand already. So it is totally fine. Or was it the Spec Force soldier that was in my hand? I don't know. Either way, we had the 1-drop in my hand, so I guess that didn't end up mattering. All right, so we're getting on to 6 resources. We're an aggro deck, and our opponent has now only taken 8 damage. Can we get through? Oh, our opponent's at 10. Oh, so he remembered the extra 2 damage, but we didn't. So, you know, maybe dice are better than Notepad. Oh, that's funny. Also a good reason to like check in with our opponent. So our opponent here plays, you know, some spaceships, and we just overwhelm the ground arena. We now have 4 units on our field. Pretty nice. So even though we didn't get a dark side card, we were able to play Leia for 4 resources, untap 1, and then play a 1-drop for 3. So on 6 resources, we could still play 2 guys. It was out of aspect, which is, super sus. It sucks that we didn't get a dark side card, but here's another reason why, trying to keep one in hand is very important. But, this deck actually does insane when your opponent tries to race you. So, like in a different arena. So, we always will win the ground versus space fight. I mean, right now we have, 2, 4, 6, 9 damage. Like, putting them to 19. That's, very high. This deck plays Hot Shot Blasters. It plays Surprise Strike. So, we definitely do a lot of damage out of nowhere. He summons out a Greedo. We go... I think I was thinking about trading, but we should just always be going to face here. We should be winning these races. And yeah, our opponent should be at 16, so good on him for keeping track better than I did. He plays the Demolisher. He could definitely thought of sacrificing Greedo here for Demolisher to try to kill one of my units. I probably would have done that. I don't know, might not have been an event on top. Maybe he thinks next turn he can take back the board. I think he has a Dooku in hand, so he's probably trying to play around that. But I definitely would have considered killing my Greedo. We Surprise Strike for 6, putting him to 20. But again, yeah, he thinks he's at 22. Oh, but he just puts the die away, which maybe he's like, oh, maybe I just miscounted. Which is totally fine, because it was me who miscounted. And then, yeah, 3 to base from his 7 Fleet Defender. We've taken 11 damage. We're feeling pretty good. We just definitely get in for 2 with the Spec Force Soldier. And we let him go to his turn. So even though we, definitely whiffed on our 6 resource play, and then we whiffed on our 7 resource play, since we only played a Surprise Strike, we just have so many units on the ground that it was just overwhelming for our opponent. And, this is a deck that plays a cheaper leader like Sabine does. So it's a good example of how this deck can kind of do decent into decks that also want to play small guys, because you know what, we're just going to have more of them, and we're going to be able to draw cards in the early game and summon little units. So even though we don't have that leader deploy, it still feels pretty decent. So there you go. He's sacrificing 2 units. He's going to pay I think the 4 resources, right, for Dooku, which is, Dooku is a high consideration. After playing this game, I was like, man, Dooku would feel pretty good in my deck. I don't know how many copies, 1 or 2. I don't know if it'd be a sideboard, but if you guys have made my deck, definitely play around with the cards in it. But yeah, he plays Dooku, and, everything. He's thinking about what 3 units to kill, and he ends up keeping the Leia on the field. We do have a Hot Shot Blaster to, finish him off, which is pretty nice. We also drew the Dark Side card finally, so we've been able to flip Palpatine, the Sidious back over to Palpatine, and do an additional 2 damage. So, a couple, mistakes there. Nothing really too big. We forgot to pay the 1 Heroic Sacrifice, and we forgot to deal him 2 damage. Both those things didn't end up mattering, I guess. Because we did have the extra resources. Now we're sideboarding. I'm thinking about, so right now in my sideboard I have No Good to Me Dead, and I was considering using those in the sideboard. I don't know if I was a big fan, but we can just skip through. No Good to Me Dead was an idea for Sabine if they played. Oh, now we're too far, so I have to talk for a second. It was an idea for Sabine if they played the Darksaber, or there's they this guy, if he plays Fallen Lightsaber on his dude and just super big, and I think it's just Fallen Lightsaber can just ping 1 everywhere, and it's kind of annoying. I was No Good to Me Dead here. Maybe I can just go around it for 2 turns, and then hopefully by then he's so far behind that it doesn't matter that it gets to untap eventually. It's a cheap dark side card for a flip, so I'm trying it in my sideboard. I really do think that Palpatine can have a conversion sideboard as well, where you're just sideboarding techs and waylays, and then you're hey, I can play the late game as well. It doesn't matter what part of the game we're going to. Yeah, that would have been really helpful in my next game, which we'll talk about all my matches in the tournament after this game is over. So let us continue. He opens up the droid deployment again. We're going to be pretty sad if he has Asajj, but, we can also see his Fallen Lightsaber in hand. I don't know if you guys noticed that. So that's pretty scary. We do open up our double 1-drop per se. Leia is a 2-mana 2/2, but Feels like a 1-mana 2/2, right? Just lets us have more opportunities to play 2/1 drops. The ideal when you play this deck is to play 1 ground and 1 space unit and have them both be pretty small. That way they can die on your second turn of the game, and you're able to flip Palpatine and get the engine going. I actually did consider not playing the 1-drop here because of this exact scenario. I'm pretty sure I have a Hotshot Blaster, but I was like, I guess if he fallen lightsabers, I can still Hotshot and just Tarkin Town, so I should just like keep the body on my board. So there we go. I ended up playing a Surprise Strike from hand, though, instead of the Hotshot Blaster, in case I drew a 1-drop. I might already have one, though. I don't remember, but, you know, Hotshot would have, like, worked out maybe a little bit better. I take 5. I deal 2 back with my Wolfpack Escort. He just grabs the initiative. We end up flipping Palpatine. So we're going to heal 2, which is really good against these racing decks, you'll see. Like, any deck that wants to race you, like, you just heal 2. And we Tarkin Town off his Ventress. So he does have, like, this, you know, insane early game. But Tarkin Town, like, and, like, Surprise Strike, right? Like, we're able to answer it, which is, like, really spooky scary for him. That our deck can answer, like, one of the strongest turn 2 game plays in the game. Like, putting a Fallen Lightsaber, right? Having, what, a 5/7 that can get bigger later on turn 2. Like, that's really scary. And the fact that my deck can get rid of it is it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. So we end up getting that 1-drop, so Surprise Strike there was a little bit better than playing the Hotshot Blaster, so we get rewarded. He plays the one where he discards a card from his hand, and then he gets to look at my hand and I discard a card. Pretty good, because he discarded Kylo's TIE Silencer. He takes our 4-drop that deploys the 3/1/1s, which makes a lot of sense here, as that is just a lot of damage coming to face. But now we just have a decent amount of damage in our hand. We play another Guavian Antagonizer, which of course allows us to Sidious this turn, which is going to feel pretty nice. He flips the Ventress, so he could Hotshot Blaster if we want to, and just get rid of the card right away. He draws from, yep, and there we go. So the Blaster ends up feeling pretty nice here. So we instantly kill his leader. Yes, he gets to draw that extra card, but whatever. It's not the biggest deal. He plays the Kylo's TIE Silencer for free from his graveyard since he did discard it this turn. I trade in with my spaceship. So yes, while we are an aggro deck, we can decide to trade every once in a while. There we go. I remember to do the 2 damage this time. I summon the Clone Trooper, and look at that, guys. I have now killed his leader, and I have the board on a deck that doesn't even have a deploy. I think that's like pretty impressive. That's why I do think this deck can compete against like aggro leaders like Asajj and Sabine. I think you have these tools to just one-shot their leader, and they can't really always play around it, which is another reason why I was like unsure about No Good to Me Dead. Like, do I really need it if I have the tools to one-shot leaders? Like, we have like, what, 8 buffs in our deck to buff cards. He plays the 3/3, the new card, the 3/3 spaceship, where it says bases can't be healed. That is in our sideboard as well. We played Yoda in round 1, and we won. That card did feel pretty good. You know, even if they have the Vigilance, it's pretty tough. Now they have to kill that card and then Vigilance, and that might not be the card they want to kill. He plays another spaceship, which again, this is ideal for us. We want to go ground versus space, but that one's pretty good. It's a 2-mana 2/2 that says if you have another Separatist unit, deal 2 damage to the base. So he's just you know, chipping away at me, but we're chipping away back, and we play 2 units down. We play Fires for Freedom and the 332nd Stalwart, which is a card that I think I underestimated in the beginning, but feels really strong. A 1-mana 2/3 is kind of disgusting. So I think we did not resource this turn. You know, I'm trying to count. I can't remember, but yeah, sometimes this deck will definitely skip on resources. I've skipped on resources on like literally turn like 3 before, like just stayed at 3 resources because I had 3 1-drops and I wanted to play them all. I don't know. Sometimes that just happens. The deck really only wants to hit 6 resources to play Ruthless Raider. So if it doesn't feel like a Ruthless Raider game or you don't have the card, yeah, resourcing is not as important. There are so many cheap cards in this deck. I think if you watch the video, I think we're playing like 26 1-drops. So, excuse me. So even like right now, you know, if we had one of the 1-drops out of Aspect, like we could still play it, and we're still putting 2 buys on the board. Yes, they're not the most strong things, but you know, just flooding the board is annoying for our opponent. And Fires for Freedom is just so strong in this deck, and it has so many like spots for Saboteur. So he plays the Greedo, so we could get Dooku this turn again, which is very strong. I think about that, so I swing with the Guavian because it lets him draw a card when it dies. So I'm trying to play a little bit around it. It also has 3 health, and the Fighters for Freedom is just a little bit harder to kill. So if he does like decide to Dooku right now to try to kill things, I mean, he has to hit on the Greedo, but it's going to be hard for him to kill the Fighters for Freedom and the other 2 guys because they're 2/3s. Yeah, so I think swinging with the Guavian, I think, was definitely the right play. So he does hit the event, so he's going to be able to do what? 3 damage, 2 damage, and 2 damage. You know, it's a pretty awkward number. 3, 2, 2. I mean, if he wants to, he could do 3 to my Guavian, and then 2 to the Clone Trooper, and then 2 to 332nd Stalwart, and I'll lose the coordinate, so he'll die. Or he could just do double 2 damage to Fighters for Freedom. So he has an option here. So he ends up killing our 2/2s. This is a pretty ideal, so I'm really glad that I swung with the Guavian. You know, I think those are like little things that like add up in the game, like knowing my opponent can have Dooku and knowing that swinging with the Guavian antagonizer was just like the right swing for the turn. So I got an extra 2 damage in. I knew if he killed the Fighters for Freedom, I would have kept extra guys. So, you know, I'm putting my opponent in a hard spot, so those little things are good to keep track of. So my opponent has 13 damage on base, and we have 8. But he has a Dooku on board. But I only need 12 more to go, and you know we still got some gameplay this turn. So we're gonna flip our Palpatine again, healing 2, which makes it hard to race us. We're gonna play the Soldier of the 201st. He's gonna take 1, and pass. So we have a pretty weak turn, guys. You know, playing a 1-drop for 3 resources. I mean, you could just say for 5 resources, right? All I did was play a Soldier of the 501st. But I still think we can come away with this game. You know, he's at 14, so like if I do have a Ruthless Raider this turn, we're putting him in like dire situations. You know, he does have to trade with our fighters first, which is good for us. We take 2 damage because Dooku has Overwhelm. We should probably just get our 2 damage in with our ground unit while we can. But I'm trying to do some maths here. 9, 12, yeah, we're pretty safe for now. Thinking about our plays. But yeah, Ruthless Raider, guys, is a disgusting card. I mean, the fact that it just comes out and does 2 damage, and then I can use Sidious to do 2 damage is really gross. I end up attacking his Dooku. I'm not sure if that play is completely right. I must have the Ruthless Raider in hand so I can like finish off the Dooku. I must be like scared of like what he could have. You know, I'm not super familiar with the Asajj deck, but I definitely think Soldier there can just go to face. Just to put him, you know, closer to that lethal range. So now he's at 16 damage on base, and we're going to flip Sidious 18. So he could have been 20 damage on base, which means, you know, like Ruthless Raiders, like putting him to 24 as a first action. And then maybe at the time I thought like, hey, like putting him to 24 is the same as putting him to 22. So, but now like he couldn't kill the Ruthless Raider, right? So he has a Surprise Strike in hand right now, and he's like struggling. He's like, do I Surprise Strike the Ruthless Raider? He's like, because then I lose a 1/1. I'm still taking 2 damage, and then I have no board. So I think he's going to like hope to race me here and Surprise Strike my face, which is like actually pretty reasonable. Because like, I mean, if he Surprise Strike to my Raider, like he's losing most of his board. I'm getting a 2/2. What if he trades into it? And then he has 1 card in hand, and he's trying to like fight this uphill battle. So I think he's hoping to just, you know, get in the damage. So yeah, I mean, we're at 20. So like I said, like he's just trying to kill me as well. We only have 5 damage left. I feel like I forgot to heal 2 this game. Who knows? You know, we got to make sure we're playing a little bit slower. We were having a good chat with this guy, so it was a fun game. But yeah, so he has 18 damage on base, and we have 20. And ooh, we hit him with the Heroic Sacrifice, guys. So this is going to do 6 damage to face, and then it's going to kill our Ruthless Raider, which is going to do another 2 damage to base, and that's 8 total, putting him to 26, and Gonzo. And yeah, if I didn't have that, I would have had to somehow like achieve more damage from hand. I do have a Falcon, so yeah, I don't know. Falcon feels really good in this deck, but it's also like one of those cards that I don't really like playing on 3 resources, but like on playing on like 4 or 5 resources feels pretty good. Sometimes it like takes the resource off the Ruthless Raider, which kind of sucks. But all in all, like I'm glad I'm not playing 3 Falcons, but 2 definitely feels like a good number. So yeah, you guys got to see some Palpatine gameplay. If you guys didn't know how the deck worked, this is how it works. It's really cool, right? I feel wild for like inventing such a weird deck, but it performs pretty well. I played Yoda Control round 1, and I 2-0'd him. I just 2-0'd the Asajj, and then I 1-2'd Cad Bane Tarkentown my next round. That matchup is pretty rough, actually. I mean, I think the fact that he has a bunch of pings in Tarkentown make it hard. It has weird situations. You definitely need to open double 1-drop, and I did in the first game, and I beat him in that first game, and then I didn't open double 1-drop the next 2 games, which is pretty unlikely since we're playing so many 1-drops and Leia. So, oh well, we got a little unlucky in that last round, but I do think it's a tougher matchup. I think we can pull through. I'm not really sure on the percents. I'd have to play it like a bunch. But yeah, this deck surprisingly feels very strong. I feel like I can compete. I feel it has a great control matchup. I think it has a pretty decent aggro matchup as well. So, you know, those mid-range games are the ones that are going to be like, you know, a little bit more back and forth, and you just got to try to find your windows for victory. And yeah, guys, this was the Palpatine Sidious deck. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and as always, peace.